Imagine that beneath the golden sands of Egypt, hidden away for over 2,000 years, an ancient passage lies untouched. The tunnel, perfectly carved into stone, is considered an engineering marvel even by modern architects. Stretching for over 4,000 feet, this mysterious structure winds its way through the depths of the earth, leading to an unknown destination. The weight of centuries rests upon it, holding secrets that could change everything known about one of history's most enigmatic figures, Cleopatra VII. For centuries, archaeologists, treasure hunters, and historians scoured the land, searching for Cleopatra's final resting place. Some believed she was buried in the heart of Alexandria, the magnificent city she once ruled. Others asserted that a devastating earthquake that reshaped the Egyptian coastline had swallowed her tomb. No one knew for certain where the last queen of Egypt had been laid to rest. Until now. Deep beneath the ruins of the Taposiris Magna Temple, an astonishing discovery has stunned the scientific world. This ancient tunnel, perfectly engineered and seemingly leading toward an undiscovered chamber, has sparked a wave of excitement and unease. The implications of this find stretch beyond archaeology. What lies at the end of this passage could rewrite history, offering insights into Cleopatra's life, death, and the world she left behind. She was no ordinary ruler. She was more than a queen. She was a strategist, a scholar, a visionary. Born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, she commanded a vast empire that balanced on the edge of war and alliance. Unlike many of her predecessors, she fully embraced Egyptian culture, presenting herself as the living embodiment of the goddess Isis. Her mastery of languages allowed her to rule without interpreters, strengthening her influence over her people and foreign powers alike. She was Rome's greatest ally and its fiercest adversary. Her intelligence and charm made her unforgettable. Her burial site remained a mystery, shrouded in speculation and myth. Historical records hinted at a grand tomb, a sanctuary where she and Mark Antony, her devoted lover and ally, would rest together for eternity. Some believed her tomb was filled with unimaginable riches, golden treasures dedicated to the gods. And yet, against all odds, the search led to Kathleen Martinez, a woman determined to defy the skeptics. A lawyer by training but an archaeologist by passion, Martinez dedicated her life to uncovering Cleopatra's lost tomb. Through meticulous study of ancient texts, she developed a theory that challenged traditional beliefs. While many experts insisted she was buried in Alexandria, Martinez was convinced she lay elsewhere, inside a temple dedicated to Isis, the goddess she worshipped. Her research led her to Taposiris Magna, a temple once considered insignificant in the search for the queen's tomb. Unlike the grand palaces of Alexandria, this sacred site had been overlooked for centuries. But its location and structure hinted at something extraordinary. The more Martinez studied, the more she believed she was on the right path. In 2005, she obtained permission to begin excavations, and what she uncovered changed everything. The temple, once seen as just another ruin, revealed secrets buried deep beneath its foundations. There were statues, inscriptions, and coins bearing Cleopatra's face, all of which pointed to a connection between this place and the legendary queen. But the most astonishing discovery was still to come. Underneath the temple, a vast tunnel system, an underground labyrinth designed with extraordinary precision. The tunnel was no accident. As the excavation continued, artifacts surfaced, objects untouched for thousands of years, remnants of an era lost in the passage of time. Yet something about the site seemed different. Each major breakthrough came with strange, supernatural occurrences. Unexplained equipment failures interrupted work. Sudden storms buried excavation sites in sand. Some team members reported vivid, almost prophetic dreams of ancient rituals and lost queens. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. For centuries, the world has searched for the final resting place of Cleopatra VII, the last ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt. Born in 69 BCE, she was a woman of intelligence, power, and unmatched political acumen. She spoke multiple languages, mastered diplomacy, and stood against the might of Rome. After the catastrophic defeat of her lover Mark Antony at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, the inevitable loomed. As Roman forces closed in, she retreated to her palace in Alexandria. On August 12, 30 BCE, they found her lifeless, her body adorned in royal robes, and a mysterious serpent coiled nearby. Some say it was suicide. Others speak of something far more sinister. Her tomb vanished from history, lost in shifting sands and centuries of war, earthquakes, and changing landscapes. Ancient texts spoke of an elaborate burial site, fit for a ruler who saw herself as divine. If the structure still stood, it would be buried deep beneath layers of earth, an untouched relic of a vanished world. In 2005, against all odds, a Dominican archaeologist named Kathleen Martinez embarked on an investigation that would challenge centuries of accepted history. Unlike her peers, she rejected the notion that the sea had swallowed Cleopatra's tomb in the heart of Alexandria. Instead, she turned to an ancient temple, Taposiris Magna, located west of the city. Taposiris Magna, built during the rule of Pharaoh Ptolemy II, 283 to 246 BCE, was dedicated to the goddess Isis, a deity closely associated with Cleopatra. Martinez theorized that she, who styled herself as the living embodiment of Isis, would have chosen this sacred place for her final rest, away from Roman desecration. A location of great spiritual power, Taposiris Magna had always carried an air of mystery. Ancient priests believed the temple was a bridge between the worlds of the living and the dead, a place where the soul could ascend beyond mortal constraints. The underground chambers remained sealed for centuries, untouched by looters or time. If Cleopatra was there, her burial site could be one of the greatest discoveries of modern archaeology. The discovery beneath Taposiris Magna stunned the world. Hidden beneath the ruins, archaeologists unearthed a labyrinth of underground tunnels, a marvel of ancient engineering, spanning nearly a mile long. The tunnels descended 13 meters, 43 feet beneath the temple, winding through chambers that had never seen the light of day in over 2 millennia. Inside, relics whispered secrets of a forgotten past. Coins etched with Cleopatra's likeness, golden amulets bearing the insignia of Isis, and the crumbling remains of 2 high-ranking individuals, perhaps Mark Antony and she themselves. As the team delved deeper, an unease settled over them. Sudden sandstorms struck the dig site with unnatural frequency. Strange markings, unlike any found before, lined the tunnel walls. Warnings or mere decoration? Team members reported vivid dreams, visions of a woman in white, whispering in a language they could not understand. One night, a lead researcher collapsed, unable to breathe. He was rushed to safety, but spoke of a presence, a force pushing against his chest. Some dismissed it as stress, others weren't so sure. The curse of Cleopatra's tomb spread through whispers. The site, long protected by unseen forces, did not welcome intruders. The spirits of the past stirred in defiance of the living. Then in 2022, a breakthrough. At the far end of the tunnel, there was a hidden door, sealed tightly and adorned with intricate carvings on its surface. Symbols of kingship, eternity, and the underworld danced in the torchlight. Martinez and her team stood before it, hearts pounding. A passageway, untouched for 2,000 years, stood before them. Beyond the stone barrier, the final chapter of Cleopatra's story awaited. The weight of history pressed down upon them, as if the temple itself breathed in anticipation. Something moved in the darkness. A whisper echoed through the chamber, so soft that it could have been the wind or something else. The air grew heavy. The flames of the torches flickered, bending as if drawn toward the sealed tomb. In 48 BC, Rome was in chaos. 2 powerful leaders, Julius Caesar and Pompey, were fighting for control. Pompey fled to Egypt, hoping for protection from Pharaoh Ptolemy XIII. Cleopatra's younger brother. However, instead of helping him, Ptolemy had Pompey killed, hoping to gain favor with Caesar. When Caesar arrived in Egypt and learned of Pompey's death, he was furious. He had wanted to capture Pompey himself, not have him executed by a foreign ruler. At the same time, she was in trouble. A power struggle with her brother, who had taken full control, had forced her to flee Alexandria. She knew that if she wanted to reclaim her throne, she needed an ally. That ally would be Caesar. Cleopatra planned her return carefully. According to legend, she had herself smuggled into Caesar's palace inside a rolled-up carpet, or possibly a linen sack. When the carpet was unrolled, she appeared before Caesar, impressing him with her intelligence, charm, and determination. This dramatic entrance won her the Roman leader's attention and soon his support. Cleopatra's meeting with Caesar was more than just a daring act. It was a turning point. With Caesar's backing, she challenged her brother for the throne. Egypt descended into a civil war, with Cleopatra's forces fighting against Ptolemy XIII's army. Caesar, seeing the potential of an alliance with she, deployed Roman troops to aid her cause. After months of battle, the conflict reached a climax. During a decisive moment in 47 BC, Ptolemy XIII tried to flee but drowned in the Nile River. With his death, she took control as Queen of Egypt, officially ruling alongside her even younger brother, Ptolemy XIV. In reality, she was the true ruler. Cleopatra's and Julius Caesar's relationship went beyond politics. They became lovers. Their union led to the birth of Ptolemy XV Philopator Philometor Caesar, better known as Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. She saw Caesarion as her heir, believing that one day he could rule both Egypt and Rome. In 46 BC, Cleopatra traveled to Rome with Caesarion to visit Caesar. She lived in one of Caesar's estates, openly presenting herself as his partner. Many found her presence in Rome shocking, particularly considering Caesar's previous marriage. The Romans were fascinated, but also uneasy. She was a foreign queen, and some feared her influence over Caesar. However, before anything could be settled, Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC by a group of Roman senators. His death left she vulnerable. Without his protection, she quickly returned to Egypt with her son, knowing that Rome had become too dangerous. After Caesar's death, Rome fell into another power struggle. His supporters fought for control, and one of them was Mark Antony, a powerful general and politician. By 41 BC, Antony was one of the most influential men in Rome, and he called for she to meet him in Tarsus, modern-day Turkey. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. She arrived in spectacular fashion. She sailed up the river on a golden barge, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite, surrounded by musicians and servants. Antony was immediately captivated by her presence, but more importantly, he understood her value as an ally. The two formed both a romantic and political partnership. Together, they built a powerful coalition. Cleopatra needed Antony's military support to keep Egypt strong, while Antony needed Egypt's wealth to fund his campaigns. Their alliance solidified when she gave birth to their three children, Alexander Helios, Ptolemy Philadelphus, Cleopatra Selene II. She and Antony saw themselves not just as rulers, but as divine figures destined to create a new world empire. With Antony and she growing in power, Rome turned against them. Their biggest rival was Octavian, Julius Caesar's adopted son and future emperor Augustus. He saw Cleopatra as a threat and portrayed her as a seductive queen manipulating Antony. The conflict escalated in 34 BC when Antony and Cleopatra held the Donations of Alexandria, a grand ceremony where Antony granted vast territories to she and their children. This move alarmed Rome, as it seemed Antony was shifting power away from the city and toward Egypt. By 31 BC, war became inevitable. Antony and Cleopatra's forces clashed with Octavian's army at the Battle of Actium, a naval battle off the coast of Greece. It was a disastrous defeat. She and Antony barely escaped and fled back to Egypt. Octavian pursued them, determined to eliminate she and bring Egypt under Roman control. Surrounded and outnumbered, Antony took his own life in 30 BC, believing she had already died. When she learned of his death, she chose to die on her own terms rather than be paraded through Rome as a prisoner. According to legend, she allowed a deadly asp, a venomous snake, to bite her, ending her life. With Cleopatra's death, Egypt became a province of Rome, marking the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty. The capture and execution of Caesarion ensured that Rome's new ruler, Octavian, who soon became Emperor Augustus, had no rival. His story, however, did not end with her death. She became a legend, a symbol of power, intelligence, and resistance. Her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony were not just romances. They were alliances that shaped the fate of two great civilizations. Much of what we know about she comes from the writings of ancient historians, particularly from Rome. Some of the most important sources include Plutarch was a Greek historian who lived approximately 100 years after his death. He wrote about her in the life of Antony, focusing on her relationship with Mark Antony. His work influenced later retellings of her story. Cassius Dio was a Roman historian who authored a history of Rome. He described she as charming and ambitious, but also as someone who used her beauty to control powerful men. Suetonius was another Roman historian who wrote about Julius Caesar. He mentioned she as Caesar's lover and the mother of his son, Caesarion. Romans, who viewed her as an enemy, primarily penned these accounts. Rome had conquered Egypt after her death, and they wanted to show her as a ruler who had tried and failed to stand against them. Many of the descriptions of her being manipulative or overly seductive were written to make her seem less like a great leader and more like a dangerous woman. His life was so dramatic that it became the subject of many plays, poems, and novels. One of the most famous works inspired by her story is William Shakespeare's play Antony and She, written in the early 1600s. Shakespeare's play presents she as a passionate and emotional ruler, deeply in love with Mark Antony. She is strong, witty, and proud, but also capable of deep sadness when things go wrong. In the play, her love for Antony is powerful but also destructive, leading to their tragic deaths. This romantic version of his life became one of the most famous interpretations of her story. It shaped the way people thought about her for centuries, focusing more on her love life than on her political achievements. Over time, many other authors wrote about she in different ways. Novels and historical fiction often show her as a smart and powerful ruler who had to make difficult choices to protect Egypt. Poetry and plays sometimes highlight her beauty and charm, but also her intelligence and strategic mind. Modern books and research try to uncover the real Cleopatra, focusing on her leadership, her role as a diplomat, and her knowledge of science, culture, and languages. If you're enjoying this, consider supporting us. Click Super Thanks. Your engagement helps us uncover more historical mysteries and bring forgotten stories to life. Throughout history, artists have imagined what she might have looked like. Since no real portrait of her survives, every image we see is based on interpretation rather than fact. Ancient Egyptian art showed her as a powerful pharaoh, wearing traditional royal symbols like the uraeus, cobra crown, and the ankh, symbol of life. Later, Roman sculptures made her look more like a classical queen, with Greek-style features. During the Renaissance period, 1400s to 1600s, European painters often depicted she in dramatic scenes, usually at the moment of her death, holding the deadly asp, snake. These paintings focused on her beauty and tragedy rather than her accomplishments. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, artists romanticized her even more, often showing her in luxurious clothing, reclining on golden couches, or surrounded by servants and treasures. These images helped create the idea of her as a seductive, mysterious queen, even though historical evidence suggests she was admired more for her intelligence than her looks. Cleopatra's story is one of power, ambition, and resilience. Her reign marked the end of ancient Egypt as an independent empire, yet her legacy has endured for more than 2,000 years. From the pages of history to the grand stages of literature, art, and cinema, she remains a figure of fascination and intrigue. Her intelligence, charisma, and political skill shaped not only her own time, but also the way rulers throughout history have been remembered. She was more than a queen. She was a leader who understood the delicate balance of diplomacy and warfare, a strategist who formed alliances with two of the most powerful men in Rome, and a visionary who embraced both her Greek and Egyptian heritage to strengthen her rule. Despite the attempts of Roman historians to reduce her to a seductress who relied solely on charm, modern research continues to reveal the depth of her intellect and the scale of her accomplishments. Her story is not just about the past, it is about the enduring nature of human ambition, the relentless pursuit of power, and the way history is shaped by those who write it. As long as people continue to tell her tale, Cleopatra will never truly be gone. She lives on in the words of poets, in the strokes of artists, in the visions of filmmakers, and in the imaginations of those who wonder what it truly meant to be the last queen of Egypt. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.